Good morning, Charlie here. I'm going to shoot a little video this morning. It's primarily going to be for new users that are using Universal G-Code Sender. I get a lot of questions about Universal G-Code Sender, so I thought I would try to give you some pointers to get you going in the right direction. Now, this is not going to be a complete guide of everything you need to know about Universal G-Code Sender or everything it's capable of. But this is just going to be basics to get you going, and I'll also show you how to zero with the touch plate that I've got here, and hopefully that'll get you going in the right direction. Also, if you're an easel user, I'm going to show you how to zero your machine before you go into easel, and that way you'll have a really good zero for all three axes. Then you get into easel and just go like normal. So as you might be able to see on the screen here behind me, I've got Universal G-Code already loaded up. I got my X-Carve here behind me, ready to go. I got a piece of material strapped down on there, and so I'm going to get up close to the computer monitor and walk you through that, and then I'll switch over and we'll maybe get a little video of the zeroing process and what to do after you actually zero, because that's a big question people have, is after they do the zero, then what? So I'm going to try to get that question answered for you as well. Okay, as you can probably see here, I've got Universal G-Code Sender loaded, and this is version 1.09. The other versions are essentially the same, they just got minor differences in them. But right out of the box, most people will notice that over here, you got to open up your COM port to connect. Right over here it says baud and it says 9600. That's not going to work. You need to raise this up to the highest level it has, and this is 115-200. Once you've got it set at the maximum level that's available to you, then you click the open button. And it went through a little quick test, and then finally down here at the bottom, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but it says OK. So, a little bit about this screen. One thing that's real important, especially when you're zeroing, is if you look right over here, under the machine status, and we're on the commands tab. I think it stays the same on the different tabs. Anyway, under machine status, you have two positions. You've got work position and a machine position. The machine position is where the machine is at when you first turn it on. It's considered a home position. Or if you use homing switches and you home your machine, that will be the machine position, the machine zero. As your bit moves around, those numbers will change as it goes. When zeroing, the numbers you're really interested in are the ones over here on the left. It says work position. Okay, that's where your bit is actually located, the tip of your bit at all times. So as you jog around, those numbers will change. When you zero your machine, essentially what you're doing is you're putting your bit at a starting point on your material, and you're making all these read zero. And then your software, everything relates to that position, and not not machine position, but it relates to work position. Okay? So, just keep that in mind. We're always going to be looking at work position, and we're going to pretty much ignore the machine position. So let's go up here to the command tab. This is where you can actually enter commands that go directly to the machine. And one of the most popular commands is $$. And what that shows you is all your settings, in this case for Gerbil. So if I put $$, hit enter, over here on the console, it shows all my different Gerbil settings. This is where you would want to go if you want to change your stepper calibration, enable or disable homing and limit switches and all kinds of stuff. That's a whole other video. But suffice it to say, if you get your system from Inventables, this is going to work just fine, because this is actually reading the data that's on your Arduino and your Gerbil G-Shield card. This isn't programmed in there already. On this command line, you can also actually enter commands that will move your machine around if you want to, but that's a little more advanced, and you want to make sure you know what you're doing with that, and it's really not necessary. The next tab at the top of the page is the file mode. This is where you're going to load G-code files to either carve or zero or whatever else you wanted to do. Then you've got the next tab over is machine control. this is where you'll jog from. Over here on the right hand side, I think you can see that, yeah. You got your Z minus, which will bring it down, Z plus raises it up, and then you got X and Y coordinates there. You also have inches and millimeters. Right now it's set in millimeters. I'll change that to inches just by clicking the little radio button up here. Okay, and then on the step size, that's how far your bit is going to move every time you click one of these buttons. Okay, right now it's set for 15. That's a big number for inches. So if you just hit the drop down arrow, now it's for 1. You click it again, you get down to 0.1 inches, and that's as low as it goes. But you can actually enter another value here just by typing it in, and we'll be doing that a little bit later. But for now, just understand that you raise and lower this, and whatever you have it set for here is what it's going to be. There's also a button up here to enable your keyboard movement. Personally, I don't use it, but if you want to, you just click that, and then you've got your up and down, left, right, page up, page down. They all do something different. Okay? Moving over to the center section here, you've got reset 0. That kind of works and kind of doesn't work. When you click it, generally what it will do is it'll reset your machine position to 0. It doesn't necessarily affect your work position, but really there's no reason to even use it. Not when you're zeroing with a touch plate anyway. Return to 0. This is a big one that has caused people a lot of headaches. They click that button and the machine takes off in some ungodly known direction and crashes into rails, breaks limit switches, whatever. Return to 0 moves your machine to machine position 0 right down here. So return to 0 makes these all read 0. So wherever your machine's at, it'll go to 0 over here, and it may not be what you want. So I'll avoid clicking this, pretty much never do. Soft reset resets some of the stuff. That's not anything you use very often. Reset X, reset Y, reset Z. These, let's see, I'm showing Y minus 5, so I'll click reset Y, and now my Y work position is 0. So you could go back and you could click on each one of these and zero these out, but again, there's no need. Not when you use a touch plate, because the touch plate is going to set these numbers for you, and you don't want to change them. You want to leave them that way. Sometimes you'll have down here in the console window down here, you'll have a pop-up that comes up there and it says alarm, machine locked, or something like that, but it's an alarm code, and it'll tell you to hit $X to clear the alarm. If you were running a zeroing sequence and you start with the bit too far away from the touch plate and it doesn't find it, then it'll set off an alarm. The G-codes, or at least my zeroing G-codes, are written so that the bit will only travel a maximum distance of about an inch looking for the X or the Y or the Z axis, whichever one it's doing at that time. What this does, it prevents your machine from just continuing on until it crashes into a rail. That's why you want to position the bit within about a half an inch of your axis before you start. But should you get an alarm, maybe you've got a faulty wiring and it doesn't make the connection even though it touches the touch plate, it'll go until it sets off the alarm. To clear that alarm, you'll click the $X button right here in the middle. Okay? The $H is for homing, and the others you won't even use for a long time. So remember, this is just a quick basic info line. Okay, the next window that you could be using is macros. Each of these buttons, C1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you can store a macro. This is essentially just one line of G-code. In this particular case, it says G91, X0, Y0. That tells it to do something. The G38.2 minus 0.5, F1, blah, blah, blah. That's actual zeroing code. But with the G-code generator, you don't need to use these macros. But you can use them. You can put whatever code you want in here, and generally it'll save them when you close out the Universal G-code Sender. When you open it back up, they'll still be there. But these are macro slots, each one of these. You put your own macros in there. Okay? So, I think I've pretty much covered most of it. You want to make sure you choose Gerbil for your software, unless you have a Tiny G or something else, but whatever you're using, you want to choose it right here. And in this case, I'm using Gerbil, the inventable stuff came out with. Okay? So, let's load up a zeroing G-code file to zero all 3 axes at once using a 1/4 inch bit. So I'm going to go to the File menu, choose Browse, and I'm going to go down to where my files are stored, and I just happen to have them stored in a folder called G-code. And then right here it says auto 0 1/4 inch bit.txt. I'll click on that, open it. Okay, now that file is loaded, it's ready to go. All I have to do is click on Send, and it'll run that whole sequence and zero this bit out. So right before I click on this, actually I'm ready to click on it, I'm going to reposition the camera so you can watch the zeroing sequence actually happen. So hang on just a second. Okay, I've got my bit positioned, and it just happens to be right where it's going to need to be to zero it. And I've got everything locked in. I'm going to put my touch plate up here, move it over there, plug in my banana plug, and this is the positive lead, by the way, which goes to pin A5 on your Arduino board. This one goes to the it's the ground wire that goes to the power supply. So I'm just going to pop that on there, and we're all set to go. Make sure your wires are not going to get hung up on something. I like to throw mine up here on top of the machine and throw something heavy on top to hold them down so they don't accidentally move around on me. Okay, that's all set. Let me get a little bit closer here for you. There we go. So now I'm going to click that send button that we were looking at just a moment ago. Now the bit's moving to the left. It touched. It moved around behind. Now it's touching the Y. And it's going to come over the top and touch the Z axis. Then it's going to lift up and move back out of the way. Okay? That's the code RAM. Now, so I'm going to just remove my ground wire, positive wire, and the touch plate. Get those out of the way. And now give me just a moment, we'll go back to the computer screen. Okay, as you can see here, it says job complete. Took 15 seconds or 16 seconds to do that. So we'll just click on the OK button. And now what we need to focus on, because most people want to return their bit back to the actual zero position they just set, they want to look at it and make sure it's right. Well, that's understandable. So what you're going to do now is you're going to go up to the Machine Control tab, click on that, then we're going to use these jog buttons over here on the far right and jog the machine over to a position where these all show zero. So what I'm going to do, well, I'll tell you what, I'll zoom in on these numbers first so you can see what they are, and then I'll zoom back out and go somewhere else. Okay, as you can see there, it shows our machine position for the X is at 2.65, the Y is at 3.084, and the Z is at 0.894. Remember, like I said earlier, disregard the this machine position numbers. All we care about is work position. Okay? So, let me show you a different part of the screen. Same screen here. What we're going to do now is we're going to jog the machine using these jog buttons here and this step size field to get it to go to zero. Unfortunately, Universal G-Code Center does not have a return to zero for each axis that would return it to machine position zero. All they have is the return to zero button that goes to the machine position, and that is not what you want. So in Universal G-Code Center, we're forced to do it the manual way. The easiest way to accomplish this is if you remember those numbers we looked at a moment ago, which showed work position at X 2.65. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right here and type in 2.65. Now, the big thing to remember here is that if you're in inches, and that's what's reported on the left over machine position, then you're fine. Sometimes you'll see that 2.65 might be a larger number. For example, let me pull up the calculator here. So you can see that, I hope. Okay, 2.65 inches equals 2.65 times 25.4. So if it was in millimeters, that number would be 67.31. Well, if you put in 67.31 in inches and you try to jog, you're going to be upset. So make sure you look at those work position numbers, and if they look pretty large, then you're most likely running in millimeters, which is okay. You would just click on the millimeter button. But since it does say 2.65, and I know that's where we're at, I put the 2.65 in. So anyway, it's in, and the phone's ringing. Okay, sorry about that. Can't get anything done without interruptions. Okay, anyway, so we put the 2.65 right there, and we're going to just click the X minus button because we want it to go to the left. So I know you can't see that, but it did move left. Now then, the Y coordinates, if you remember, were 3.084. So we'll go right up in here and we'll type in 3.084. And we're going to click the Y minus button, which will bring it forward that distance, which it did. And now we have to do the Z axis. We got to lower the bit. Of course, you want to do that last so you don't drag it around. And it was at 0.894, so 0.894. And then we'll click the Z down. I know you can hear it running, I'm sure. Okay. So now let me move the computer around, the camera around, so I can show you where we wound up. Okay, if you remember before we made those jogging moves, the tip of this bit was back over here and up in the air. And I put in the first number to move it over to the left, and the second jog was bring it forward, and the last one was bring it down. And let me zoom in there so you can see it better. And it's kind of hard to tell from this angle, but the bit is actually zeroed very well. It's right on the money. Okay, as you can see here on the coordinate screen, our X, Y, and Z on the work position here on the far left column are all set to 0 now. And that's with the bit on that corner like you just saw. But if you look at the machine position over here, it's kind of got a weird bunch of weird numbers. You can ignore those. Okay, so you got your bit sitting at X, Y, and Z 0 that you set with Universal G-code sender, so that you have a very accurate and repeatable 0. But you want to use easel to make your carvings. That's fine. With your bit sitting at XYZ 0, do your design in easel just like you normally would. And then when you're ready, I mean, if you make sure you run the machine set up and everything, which you should have already done anyway. But anyway, so when you're ready to actually carve, with your bit at 0, click the carve button up here on the top right. It's going to ask you to measure the thickness of your material and set that right here. Just confirm that that's set. Make sure you got your clamps down there. Material is secure. Click on that one. Select your bit size, confirm. And let's see, confirm home position. Now this is where you're going to confirm that your bit is setting at X, Y, and Z 0. Right over here on this side, they're showing this is the lower left corner, and then right here would be the surface. Okay, so we already know that it's there because we set it there with Universal G-code sender before we exited out of it. So you're just going to hit confirm home position. Okay, and then when you're ready to cut it, you click on the button that says raise the bit. The bit comes up about 1/8 of an inch or so. Then you click on turn on the spindle, on, and then click carve, and off you go. It's as simple as that. So the most complicated about this whole process is actually coming in here and designing what you want to cut. So I hope that answered some questions for you. If not, please email me, and I'll do my best to answer your questions as well as I can. If you're not going to be using easel, let me just exit out of that, and I'll go back to Universal G-code sender. So I'll open the COM port. It's open. So if you're going to make another cut, if you're going to cut something completely different, you just choose after you've done your zeroing, then you choose the file menu, you browse for whatever you want to cut, and maybe you want to carve something for Nathan. You go select whatever the G-code file is and select it. Let's just say we're going to do that one. And then once it's loaded, you click send right here. When you click send, off it goes, and you'll do your carvings. So anyway, I hope that answered your questions, and like I said, if you have any more questions, please feel free to email me. I'll do all I can to help you out. Thank you.